Final preview and prediction video, Dolphins fans, for our week one matchup against the LA Chargers. I tell you, watching that Thursday night football game, the Lions beating the Kansas City Chiefs, all that really did was it gave you a taste. And now you're like, oh my God, we got to wait until Sunday to the late slate from games for our game. So it was great to get football kicked off, an excellent game, close, came down to the end type of game. But all it did was leave me just itching, scratching, just wanting some more and wanting to see our team. So we're going to talk for the last time leading up to Dolphins Chargers today. We're going to discuss some of the latest news, some of the latest injuries. We're going to hit on some viewer questions that were accumulated throughout the week. And we are going to end with our official week one Dolphins Chargers prediction. Before we get started, got to hear from you, though, as well. Drop your final score, your game predictions in the comments. And remember that every comment, if you leave a comment, you get an entry for this Jaylen Waddle signed 8x10. It's as simple as that. Get subscribed, leave a comment, boom, you've got yourself an entry. I've got a little bit of news and information scrolling along the bottom, but the first thing that we're going to talk about is that final injury report, because on Friday afternoon, we got the unfortunate news that we sort of expected with everything that was leading up with Terron Armstead. He has officially been ruled out of this game. Elijah Campbell has officially been ruled out of this game. And then we got two guys that are questionable, being Justin Bethel and Julian Hill at tight end. The Chargers have two guys that are doubtful, both linebackers, Deion Henley and Chris Rumph. Now, here's the deal. Mike McDaniel said he had immediate availability Friday before their final practice. Basically said, you know what, if Terron Armstead was the one making the call, he'd give it a go. He would say, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be there for my teammates. However, Mike McDaniel worded as, we wanted to see him go through some football stuff, basically on Friday, before making that decision. Ultimately, it wasn't meant to be. We're not going to see Terron Armstead, which means we're going to get Kendall Lamb at left tackle and Austin Jackson at right tackle. And just like we did on the last time preview video, it's going to be a matchup. It's going to be quite the interesting task at hand for Mike McDaniel and his play calling and his scheming, going against the likes of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And I've talked about it a little bit in that preview video. I'll just touch on it briefly here. Mike McDaniel has shown, like, we played without our starting tackles quite often last year. And we do things with the line and with the chipping and with the scheme in general where it hasn't been an outright detriment to the team. I just don't like the idea of going against those edge rushers with the tackles that we currently have. And yes, Austin Jackson is probably in his best football shape since being a member of the Dolphins. And Kendall Lamb looked fine last year. And Mike McDaniel saying he's having a really good offseason as well. He put himself in a position to be that backup left tackle if something like this happens. So at this point, we basically have to just trust. All of our faith is in Kendall Lamb and Austin Jackson against those guys because of those injuries. I want to talk about Fangio a little bit as well before we get into the viewer questions. Because if you go back to the last time the Dolphins and the Chargers played, towards middle half of last year, our defense was fairly depleted, but we can only take that so far because, quite honestly, the Chargers were pretty beat up throughout the season as well. We did hold Austin Ekeler to 45 rushing yards. He didn't kill us on the ground. What killed us with the Chargers and their offense anyways was Justin Herbert in the passing game. Herbert threw for 367, and the combination of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who are healthy and ready to go this season, went for 18 catches, 208 yards, and Mike Williams ended up catching that touchdown. Now, if you ask me, this is an opportunity for Fangio, even if he wasn't part of the Dolphins team, obviously, for that one, it's revenge time. Now, obviously, we don't have Jalen Ramsey, but between having Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, because, yeah, we've got ourselves a hell of a duo of pass rushers as well. And the scheme that he's been developing over the time that he's had off, the break that he's had, he's going to be giving Justin Herbert multiple looks. And we don't think of Vic Fangio as being a big blitz guy. But don't be surprised if he mixes it up and throws in some blitz, and we're rushing with 5. And he's already talked about mixing things up in the secondary with different coverages, different schemes, different personnel based on those packages as well. So a lot to keep your eye on in Vic Fangio's debut. But make no doubt about it, he's going to be tested already here in his debut with the Dolphins. Let's get on to those viewer questions. Thanks to everyone that submitted one. My apologies if I didn't get to all of them. I try to get to most of them that I at least see. I know that I missed some this week as well. keep firing them in. All right, so the first question that we're going to see in this one is, assuming the Chargers once again attempt to take away Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, who do you think Mike McDaniel will utilize as a game breaker? Now, I talked about this a little bit in that first preview video as well, but I quite honestly think it's going to be Raheem Mostert and then just the running backs in general, whether it's in the run game or in that short check down or design passing routes to actual running backs, that type of game, because it's not even just on the players at this point in time. It literally is on Mike McDaniel as well. Getting the run game going, getting the running backs going, sticking with it, not abandoning it. Especially if it's not working earlier, you got to stick with it, because once you start breaking them down a little bit, you get those linebackers that have to now respect the running backs in the run game. You get the safeties that have to, oh, this guy might be actually going out on a passing route now. You got to respect that speed that these running backs have as well. So if you can get that going, that's only going to open things up more for Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle. And you're going to get back to what got you your offense just completely just cruising last year, which was hitting those guys on those deeper routes and utilizing the middle of the field. So I really think it's going to be Raheem Mostert and then just kind of the running backs in general. This is a fun one. Drop this one in your in the comments as well. It's who's going to score the first touchdown for the Miami Dolphins. So I want to hear your guys' predictions as well. It's funny. I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? It's probably going to be someone random, probably like Durham Smythe, who's going to get that random first touchdown of the season. But my prediction, I'm not really going to go with the player. I'm really going to call my shot. My guy is Braxton Berrios, and it's going to be a red zone touchdown from about 8 to 12 yards out. How is that for specifics? That's what my call. One of those little jerk routes, get on the outside. Tua is going to hit him right by the goal line. Boom. He's in for 6. So very specific. You don't need to get quite that specific, but I'm going with Braxton Berrios for my first touchdown for the Dolphins. Let's go on to a defensive question here. What's the key to slowing down Austin Ekeler? So I took a look back at that game from last year against the Chargers. And like I said, he only had 45 yards on the ground, 15 carries, 3 yards per carry, 1 touchdown on the ground there as well. But where he kind of killed the Dolphins, and not necessarily even killed them, but just provided an outlet, was Justin Herbert on those check down passes. He caught 8 balls for 59 yards. Now, that's not going to kill you, but 8 completions when they're coming on like third downs and setting you up for third and short or second and short, that's where it kills you. You got to keep those guys playing from behind the sticks. So Austin Ekeler, one of my favorite players in the league, non-Dolphins favorite players. He's not necessarily always just going to kill you on the ground, but it's what he does when he's coming out of the backfield as a pass catcher. And we know our linebackers have been tested in the past, so this is a good test for a guy like Jerome Baker or a new guy like David Long. We'll really get to see him tested against one of the better pass catching options in Austin Ekeler. So in my opinion, the way to slow him down is maybe not necessarily on the ground so much. Obviously, you got to slow him down. That's what Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer are for as well, to clog those lanes, but not letting him beat you as a pass catcher. Let's do one more before my prediction. It's, will we see any carries from Chris Brooks? So if you look at the Dolphins eligible running backs, because now that Jeff Wilson, you got him on short-term IR. It's Raheem Mostert, it's Savon Ahmed, Devon Achane, Chris Brooks, and then Alec Ingold at fullback. So if you got those 5 guys, I'm guessing that the Dolphins keep 4 of those guys active on game day, with Raheem Mostert and Alec Ingold kind of being like the guarantees. So I think actually the inactive is going to come down between Savon Ahmed and Devon Achane. And I feel that way for a couple of reasons. One, both have suffered injuries recently, and yeah, they're practicing and everything, but who knows exactly to what full extent. We can only get the practice report so much from that. So they both had somewhat recent injuries, and they both have a fairly similar skill set. So if you want to maybe keep one of those guys active, and then you keep Chris Brooks active as well for more of that short yard stuff, for more of that wearing down the defensive kind of stuff. So yes, if I'm predicting it right now, I am recording this Friday evening. It'll be released Saturday morning. My guess is yes, Chris Brooks is active. And if he is active, I do think we'll see a little bit of run. Now, that's obviously going to be dictated by the game flow, how things are going. Are we up early? Are we down early? Everything is relative, speaking of, in those terms. But I do think we do see a little bit of run and a debut from Chris Brooks. Let's do the prediction. Now, based on every single thing that I said, I'm going to go Dolphins 28, Chargers 17. Now, I do think that the biggest disadvantage that we're at in this game is our tackles versus their edge rushers. I have beaten that into the ground. But if we can contain Austin Ekeler in that receiving game, and if we can get some heat on Justin Herbert and switch up those packages and blitz sporadically here and there, and just not let him get too comfortable seeing the same defense over and over and over again. If we can switch it up, if Fangio can continue to really work his magic against a guy like Justin Herbert, then I think our defense has a little bit of an advantage in that particular category. And then offensively, like I said, let's get those running backs going. Let's get this offense to be able to open up, because you know they're going to want to tee off on Tua. So you're going to have to get rid of the ball early. But if you can kind of tame those edge rushers by getting the run game going and by having to respect and not just completely fly off the edges all the time, that's going to go a long ways in giving Tua more time and being able to eventually hit those receivers down the field as well. So that's my prediction. But like I said, drop your prediction in the comments as well. Curious to see what you've got for a final. And remember, a comment gets you an entry to win the Jaylen Phillips 8x10. So that's what I've got, Dolphins fans. We'll be chatting more after the game. I'm debating between either going live or doing a recording after that game. I'll put something out on Twitter and then the YouTube community page as well, letting you know my intentions on that one. But that's what I've got for a prediction, Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.